Good morning or good day, whatever time of the day it is that you're watching this. If you're new here, hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Ev, and on this channel, I like to talk about all things knitting, sometimes spinning, and just all things fiber related. Let's put it at that. I just wanted to take the time today and talk through some new pattern ideas that I've stumbled upon, but also the main reason for that is actually because I got a bunch of new yarn. And that kind of just made me want to go over into Ravelry, search up on Instagram, see what everybody else has in their list, and kind of revamp and update my spring and summer knit list with some new yarn. And these are things that hopefully I will cast on at some point and knit up with these specific yarns. At the same time, I am currently knitting and working on, this is a new whip for me, also a spontaneous whip, but it is cardigan number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. It will be cardigan number 9. I am knitting it in Noro Hanui silk. So it is a Hanui. Hanui is a sheep from New Zealand. So it is wool from that specific sheep breed held with, I think it's 30% silk. But I just got the color, I think it's 111 or 001. It's like the darkest one. It's like the black and the white. They have different colors, but the Noro Hanui silk are all natural. They're not dyed yarn. This is what the yarn texture is looking to be, and I love it. I love it. I think this is an Aran weight yarn as well. I'm working on US 8, which is 5mm needles, which are pretty thick needles for me. I don't typically knit with such wide needles. This is a yarn that I've had in my stash for far too long, and I was really scared to cake it up and knit it. Well, knit with it because it's such a expensive, fancy yarn, and I wanted to find the right project for it. And when I saw cardigan number 9, something just clicked. Like, it would be perfect for this yarn. And also, sorry, there are crows like flying around right now, and it's a little bit distracting. So this video is very spontaneous because my boyfriend's parents are visiting me from Turkey. Well, not me, they're visiting us. When they come and visit, they often bring me yarn from Turkey, which is Turkish yarn brands. So that is what this little pile right here is. I thought that it would be great to go through, select some patterns for each individual yarn and just talk about it. I've already casted one of them on, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So the first one that I want to talk to you guys about is actually this cute little mini skein. I have 3 of these, so this is another one with, you can kind of see the different colors. It's called Summer Dream by Yarn Art, and this is 100 grams. It is 350 meters for 370 yards, the little ball. The reason why I specifically chose this colorway was because it kind of reminds me of summer, but like a more muted tonal summer. So I thought that it would be perfect for that. It's not like, it's going to be colorful and vibrant, but it's not actually, it's going to be colorful, but it's not going to be vibrant. And I kind of wanted to still work with colors, but just not so like reds, blue, green. So I thought that this beautiful kind of yellow mustard with some copper, teal, and pink lavender worked really, really well, and I thought that this would be super fun to knit up. Now I'm actually really intrigued, and I need to knit up a swatch to see how the colorway actually transforms, because on the website it doesn't show you, it just showed the skein as is. So I kind of took a gamble. I don't know if it's going to be like bars of color or if it's going to go like kind of do more of like a marled colorway. I'm not entirely sure. For this yarn, the pattern that I had originally thought of, so the ones that actually I thought would work really, really well with this is the Darjeeling top and the Darjeeling blouse. I have enough yarn for the blouse, but I think I might do the top. But then if I do the top, I'll have yarn left over, so maybe I could do something else with it. Both patterns are by Trust the Mojo, so it's just a different, it's the same pattern, but just one has a different shoulder construction and sleeves, and the other one it's just more like a tank top. Patterns from June 2023, and it calls for a sport weight. This yarn is a sport weight, And I forgot to mention, this yarn is 33% viscose and 70% cotton. So it's a summer fiber. The pattern calls for US 4, which is 3.5 millimeter needles, or US 7, which is 4.5 millimeter needles. And it calls for about 492 yards to 984, or 450 meters to 900 meters. My favorite part of this pattern, and again with the blouse as well, is the little kind of hem detail at the bottom. I think I've mentioned this pattern before on this channel. I don't remember if it was the blouse or the tank top. I just really like that, how it has a nice clean edge, but with a little bit of a detail. I think that that is super, super cute. And just the very nice thick shoulder straps. I feel like I need more tops, t-shirts, tops in my wardrobe. I also really like the idea of having the little buttons in the front. I wonder if you could actually do this top in the round without the buttons, what that would look like, because that could also work depending on when I knit up my swatch, how the color change effect works with this yarn. I wonder if worst case is I could just do it without the buttons, although the buttons is kind of a big seller for this pattern. Like if I have other yarns that I could knit this top with, so if I end up changing my mind, another top that I thought would work really, really well with this is the sea salt tee. And I think that this would be super, super cute in just a little t-shirt, because again, I need more t-shirts in my wardrobe. I have the Sunday tee and I have the Friday tee, but I just want more variety. I want a nice, simple, kind of like what I'm wearing right now, just like a nice, simple t-shirt. Maybe a little bit looser, a little bit more positive ease would be great. So the sea salt tee is by Atelier Castin. It is a pattern that was released last June. It calls for 2 light fingering weights held together, which creates a sport. So I think just one strand of this would be perfect. It calls for US 4, which is 3.5 millimeters, or US 2.5, which is 3 millimeters. This pattern also doesn't take up too much yarn. It uses about 740 yards to 1300, or 680 meters to 1230 meters. Now, if I was to choose this one over the Darjeeling top, this pattern does have a different color for the collar and the sleeves. I'm unsure if that is what I would do. I do have this yarn in different colors, and I could potentially, I don't know, I could do it. I don't know. I think maybe because this yarn is already so colorful, I wouldn't necessarily want to add an extra color, but maybe what I could do is kind of break off the skein and do the collar in one color, if that is possible. And then do the sleeve border in that same one, and then maybe I could break up the skein and work like that. I would really have to see. That would be a lot of stitching to do and sewing back together. I guess that's something for future Ev to think about. So the next yarn that I want to talk to you guys about is Yarn Art Summer. And I now realize, now that I'm holding both skeins together, I now realize that they're both 70% cotton, 30% viscose. It's just that this one's called Summer Dream because it has the color change, and this one's just a pure black one-tone colorway. So it's a different collection, but it's initially the same yarn. So oops. My goal for this one, and this one really piqued my interest, it's because of the black shine to it. I thought that I really, really like it, and I have 3 of these again. But for this one, what I was initially planning to knit up is the sole top. The sole top is Muchi Knits. It's a pattern by Muchi Knits, which was released last January, and I think it's a pattern that's been pretty trendy. I feel like a lot of people have been knitting this one up. The only thing is that I would need to check my gauge for this one because it calls for a DK weight yarn. Now this is a sport weight yarn. However, the pattern, if I go by the gauge, it's 26 stitches by 40 rows. And according to this skein label, it's a sport weight, but it's 26 stitches by about 33 rows. So that means I would need more rows, which is totally fine. I usually don't really go by row count because I knit till either longer or shorter depending on how I want the pattern and how much yarn I have. So the rows I don't really focus on that too much. But the stitch count is technically the same. So I would really need to see what exactly this looks like swatched up, if it's too loose of a gauge or if it's too tight. So this is why this pattern is on the list for this beautiful little yarn. I am really excited to cast it on. I just love the really wide shouldered V for the sole top and the cute little bows in the front. On Instagram, I keep seeing tops that have a similar inspiration. It's like a cute little kind of vest, but with little bows, but it's not actually a vest. I like the appeal, and maybe in this beautiful shiny black, it would be stunning. I also like the fact that there's like a tiny little rib at the edge of the sleeves to kind of unify the look and add a little bit more structure to it. So this pattern calls for about 600 yards to about 870, which is 560 meters to 800 meters. So again, this is a light, small pattern that shouldn't take up too much yarn or should be kind of quick to knit up. So I'm really excited to cast this one on. So if I end up changing my mind and not use that yarn for the sole top, I really want to knit the sole top, but I do have this other yarn that I think would work perfectly for the sole top if I don't do it in black. And I had mentioned this yarn a little while back in I think it was my list video for spring and summer knits, and it is the Knit Crate pink. I have two skeins, and this is kind of like a braided, it's not a chain yarn, but it's more like a braid. It's a very interesting yarn, and it's a very cute, fluffy, squishy color. So this is 48% merino wool, 20% baby alpaca, and 32% organic Prima cotton. Now, I would love to have the sole top in black, but I also think cute little pink, it would be really, really cute. I think the sole top originally uses a yarn that is kind of like this. That is why a few people recommended the sole top when I had asked for pattern recommendations for this yarn, because it is a very interesting braided yarn. If I knit the sole top in black, then I won't knit it in this little pink, but instead what I think I'm going to do is the drop loop top, or I could just switch and make the drop loop top in black and do this in the sole top. Yeah, so I'm a little bit wishy-washy which one's going to be which. Is a pattern by Other Loops that was published last July, and I just love how simple and clean. It's kind of like a broken rib, but it's just like, it's kind of like a rib but without the purled. They're just like yarn overs, just like strands hanging. I find that is really, really nice. It really doesn't call for a lot of yarn. It calls for about 590 yards to 900 yards, or 540 meters to 800 meters. So it really doesn't call for a lot of yarn, and I think maybe in this shiny little black yarn it would be pretty. I'll decide. I'll knit some swatches. I'll definitely knit some swatches and decide. So the next project that I want to talk to you guys about is one that I've actually casted on, and surprising, it is actually this little gray yarn. Now this yarn is the same as the Yarn Art Summer, it's just in a different colorway. And because I just have one, I didn't really want to do a color work with these two. I kind of wanted to keep them separate. So because I only had one, it's about 350 meters or 370 yards. So one pattern that I've been wanting to try and knit up, and I feel like this summer I kind of want to get into more home knits or more accessory pieces, and this yarn I thought would be perfect for the Petaluma kerchief, which is a cute little handkerchief headband. I think that would be super fun to wear in the summer, and I thought that this little light gray would be super cute for it. So I did two repeats. It currently doesn't look like much. I just had a couple of minutes to like maybe half an hour to knit this up before heading out yesterday. But I thought that this would be super, super fun to have as a little headband. And the pattern is a one size only, and it calls for 136 yards. So I have more than enough. So I could also potentially knit something else with this. So the pattern is the Petaluma kerchief, like handkerchief, by Bobby in felt. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, so that's why also I thought it would be super fun to try and knit one of these up. And I thought that this pattern was super cute because of the yarn overs and the little detailed at the back, the little holes kind of give it like a little lace work detail that I thought was really, really cute instead of just having a very simple stockinette or garter stitch headpiece. Calls for US 5, 3.75 millimeters, and I downloaded the pattern. Well, I'm knitting it, but it's a very simple, well-explained pattern. It's just like repeat of 5 or 6 rows. I think you repeat them 10 times, and then that's it. You have your beautiful little triangular headband. So it seems to be working from the bottom up. So this would be the point at the bottom, and then you work up. Like if I put this at the back of my head, this is like the part that is here, and then you work up to widen the triangle. It's a pretty simple pattern. You just always increase and then keep going. So if you haven't checked out this pattern, I highly recommend you do, and maybe this summer we could all have cute little head pieces together. And I'm potentially gonna knit this in another color as well, or if you have other little headbands that you are planning to cast on or knit, let me know in the comment section. I've been really looking into knitting these up. So the next one that I want to talk to you guys about is a yarn that I've never tried before, but it is the Gazzal XL Baby Wool. So this is not a summer yarn, but it is 40% acrylic, 20% cashmere type, and 40% merino wool. So it does have a pretty heavy polyamide like synthetic fiber content, but it is still very soft and squishy. And I have about 4 of these. So these are worsted weight yarns, and they run about 100 meters or 109 yards this skein. I actually really like the color that this is in. Yeah, it's like a cream, but a really nice cream. And it feels really, really nice. So I'm really excited to cast this on and knit this up. And with this one, I thought it would be perfect since I don't have too much yardage. It would be perfect to knit something I've never done before. I think that this yarn would work really, really well for the winter hood by Pernille Larsen. This was a pattern that was released in March of 2021, and I do not have any, I was going to say baklava, but that's a dessert. Balaclava? I don't have any of these types of hoods or balaclava. I never know which one it is. But everybody's been knitting them last year. I feel like everybody was knitting them for the past 2 years, and I've never ventured into that territory. I've never knit one. I'm not someone who wears a lot of hats, so I kind of just figured that fit into the hat department. But now I want to try and knit my own. And the reason why this one really stuck out to me was because I really like that it's not just a head like cover piece where then you need to put on a scarf. It kind of goes and will also keep your chest area and your neck warm. A fake collar part to it. So I thought that that was really, really nice to kind of make it more everyday wear because my neck is what tends to run cold. So I like that this is also a hood. So this pattern calls for 400 yards to 550 yards about, or 376 meters to about 500 meters. Yeah, so I have a couple of these skeins, so I think that that would be perfect. If not, another pattern that I thought would work really, really well. Oh, that's true. This isn't a worsted, it's an Aran. Okay, so here's what I need to do. I just realized right now. I said that this was a worsted, but it's an Aran weight. So if I knit up a gauge swatch and it doesn't match up for the hood, then I actually found that the November Balaclava, it's a balaclava, not balaclava. The November Balaclava by Petite Knit actually is the correct yarn gauge for this yarn. It also doesn't call for as much yarn because this one is just the little head. It's just the headgear. It doesn't have the collar. So this one you would need to wear a scarf with it if it's really cold out. But I really like this one because it's fisherman's rib. It, I think, came out at the same time with her November collection, like the November jacket. I just find something so stunning about fisherman's rib or broken, like half fisherman's rib or brioche stitch. I just really like those stitches, but they take up a lot of yarn and a lot of time. So I feel like a balaclava would be a smaller piece. So then it's not as much of a pain. calls for even less yarn. It calls for 219 yards or 200 meters. It gives the yarn quantity for one size, but there are different sizes for this pattern. And I could potentially also continue the knit because I have, like right now it's telling me it's taking 2 skeins. I have more skeins of this yarn. So I could potentially try and add on my own fake collar to this one. The next yarn that I want to talk to you guys about is, now this is a yarn that I have never used before. I never tried. It's kind of like I think Drops has a yarn like this. Is it the brushed alpaca or the Drops Air? Is there a Drops? No, this is alpaca Air. Thick yarn. I think this one is a Aran weight as well. I was actually looking into what people knit with this yarn because again, this is a yarn kind of similar, but it's more just like a brushed alpaca than this chain braided one. So what someone did under Ravelry with this exact specific yarn, I think in the white colorway, this is more like a cream creme, is Knit Rug by Junko Okamoto, which is a pattern I've had in my list for so long. The pattern calls for a bulky weight, but this person did knit it with this yarn, which I think is an Aran weight. If you haven't checked out Junko Okamoto, I love her style and the look of her patterns. I haven't knit any of them yet because I don't have chunky yarn. She uses a lot of chunky yarn and yeah, I just don't really have the yarn for it. And it's a free pattern, so that's an extra little added bonus. As I was looking up for this yarn and I saw that someone knit the Junko Okamoto, I then went into her other patterns and discovered that Taro is also an Aran project, an Aran weight project. So now I'm torn between if I should knit the Taro sweater or rug. Because Taro, I fell in love with it. I would just need to figure out other colors that work with this one because I would use this as the main gray. So this is the Taro sweater and this is a pattern that is a little bit older. It is from 2021, December. It calls for Aran weight and it calls for 1,600 to 2,500 yards or 1,500 to 2,200 meters. So it calls for a lot of yarn, but it's embroidery, it's color work, it's a very chunky, big sweater, and I just love the boxy look. So I think that because this yarn, it's so light and fluffy, it would be perfect for it. I have like 7 or 8 of these, so I have more than enough for the basic colorway. I would just need to figure out what yarns to use, and I don't mind that the accent colors wouldn't necessarily be a fluffy yarn as well. So yeah, so it's rug or Taro. I think that's what I'm going to do with this yarn, which I am super excited to cast on because I was at one point considering using my my Noro Hanui silk for it, but because this yarn has such a different tone and color shift in it with the natural wool, natural colored wool, I thought that would be too chaotic to then go on and embroider specific details or work a color work with this. Taro is a v-neck with a thick rib collar, sleeve, and hem, as in rug is a round yoke sweater, but a really loose, oversized round yoke. And I guess that's why it's called rug, because it kind of looks like a really rustic rug. So the next pattern and yarn that I want to show you guys, and it is the Catania cotton. And this is actually a yarn from Germany, so it's not a Turkish yarn. It's a Cashmere Catania cotton yarn. This is 100% cotton, and I have 4 of these, so they're cute little greens. They run 50 grams the skein, and it is 125 meters or 37 yards, the little skein. So I have 4 of these, which isn't enough to knit any summer top or a big project. However, as I've mentioned a little bit earlier, I've kind of been searching for patterns to work up as home decor or just accessory pieces or just other things than tops and tees and sweaters. And for this yarn, I thought that the perfect thing would be a cute little pillow. So the pillow that I've decided to and take inspiration from is called the Modern Pillow by Veronica Avery. Now this pattern is not a pattern you can buy. It's from a pattern book, and it calls for a sport weight yarn, which is what this yarn is. Yeah, it was released in a book, and I don't have the book, and I don't plan on getting the book. So what I'm going to do is, based on the images, I'm going to try to recreate the pattern. I think if I just get a diagram and just do X amount of repeats for a certain pillow size, hopefully I should be able to do it. I do have this beautiful white cotton that is about the same weight. These are both sport weight yarns, and I think that this green and white would be really, really pretty. That's what I think I'm going to do with this yarn, try and recreate this beautiful pillow. I think it would be super fun to have in my house. In my last pattern suggestion video, I did talk about maybe potentially casting on the overall dress. It's a dress that I've been talking about for quite some time now. Since knitting my swatch video, I realized that I was missing about 2 skeins worth of yarn. So I did ask his mom to bring me a little bit more. So she brought me 3 just in case, which is really, really kind. So now I can actually cast that one on and get working instead of just running out of yarn midway through and then being stuck with a half-finished dress idea. So now I'm confident to start it. So that is something I hope to cast on really, really soon. So in all of that talking, I possibly knit 1 row on my cardigan number 9. Really didn't get far. Really just ended up talking and making a mess. The table is a mess. So I think that kind of wraps up my summer, spring, new edition yarns, list of yarns. I originally, when I filmed the spring and summer pattern goals that I had, what was on my list, I hadn't anticipated just yet getting all of this yarn. So this was kind of a little bit of a surprise, which is why I thought a video like this would be perfect. I might potentially later in the summer do a pattern update video where I talk about what I'm actually knitting and casting on, because I feel like I keep adding yarn, keep adding patterns to my list, and there are only so many months in the summer, and I'm already adding winter and fall knits. If you guys enjoy these types of videos, enjoy this type of knit and chat, or have any pattern recommendations, write them down below, and remember to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'm gonna go knit now. Bye!